Kiwi Ears is steamrolling into 2025 with an almost continuous stream of new releases. Just above the budget segment, the Airoso is placed into one of the most competitive corners of the market at around €125. This sample was provided by Kiwi Ears in exchange for my thoughts. Kiwi Ears have opted for an understated design approach for the Airoso with an aluminium and titanium alloy faceplate over what look like resin shells. The shape of the shells is more generic, so in theory it should fit a wider range of ear shapes. There are two vents, one on the faceplate and one small one on the ear side near the nozzle, which is on the large side at 6.5mm in diameter. The Airoso joins the short list of Kiwi Ears products to have the simpler version of their logo without the sunburst design, which gives these a bit more of a serious vibe. Inside is a single dynamic driver kept company by 4 balanced armature drivers. I think this makes it one of the few 5-driver in-ear monitors under €150, but of course, implementation and tuning is more important than driver count. I had no specific problem with the fit and could default to my usual choice of large tips, but I didn't find the fit particularly solid either. Generally, I do like the cable that is paired with the Airoso. It's pliable and does a good job of resisting tangling, despite being a 4-core tight twisted cable. However, aside from the slightly different hardware, it appears to be the exact same cable that is bundled with the KB-Ear KB02 at less than half the price, and also pales quite badly against some of the other thicker, higher quality cables in this price bracket. Also bundled with the Airoso is the new Kiwi Ears carry case, which is an improvement over the original, but still nothing to write poetry about. I think it's time to talk briefly about my relationship with IEMs. I think most of them, up until around 2023, were not good enough to convince me to switch from closed-back headphones as my go-to portable listening device, and most of the IEMs I've owned or heard before then were either just awful or flawed in various ways that always made me feel relieved to go back to headphones. Too many IEMs from many brands were pushing weird frequency responses, many with ridiculously excessive pinna gain around 3 to 4 kHz, and the vast majority of in-ear monitors, even today, have bad imaging or below average soundstage. Now we're entering a time in personal audio history where it makes more sense to use IEMs all year round than closed-back headphones. You no longer need to spend many hundreds or thousands to get objectively high-quality sound. And the Airoso is one of those rare IEMs that sounds almost just right to me out of the box. Sometimes I'm happy to sacrifice objective detail as long as other facets of the acoustic design make up for the deficit. The Airoso is one such IEM. I'm not blown away by detail or extensive treble air, but what it lacks there, it makes up for with its slightly reined-in pinna gain, and the dynamic driver pushes the mid-bass just a little north of neutral and slightly more over the sub-bass. The overall sound is slightly W-shaped, with a small emphasis on lower bass, the biggest emphasis on the vocal mid-range, around 1000 Hz, and the pinna gain region around 3 kHz. And finally, the treble gives just about enough, from 8 to 12 kHz, that it still sounds moderately detailed, but it does not extend too well, and cliff dives somewhere around 14 kHz. Thankfully, the blend of dynamic and balanced armature drivers is done very well, only the slightest disharmony of timbres and speeds. Ultimately, it's up to you to decide whether or not you like that mix of timbres or not. Personally, I don't hate it at all, and have found that many of the recent multiple driver IEMs, including the Airoso, are implementing these mixes with a mostly homogeneous sound. And while it is present, the sub-bass remains the weakest part of the performance in both presence and quality, so don't expect minor miracles from EQing a bass boost. This is one of those times where what you hear is what you get. It simply can't do the kind of bass you can EQ out of the KE4 or HAFXZ200, for example. Finally, imaging is well above average, with excellent positional qualities that also works really well in 3D video games. However, the soundstage is still about average. Let's do a broader spread of comparisons for this review because it can be difficult to accurately describe and place an IEM that has such a mild and common personality. Let's start with the SimGot Supermix 4. The treble is more forward and detailed with a deeper sub-bass kick. Essentially, these have a U-shaped signature by comparison. The SimGot EA500LM. Surprisingly, these are very similar overall, but the Airoso has a feather touch more weight in the lower notes and a bit more of a splash in the treble, so a bit more V-shaped than the EA500LM. Kiwi Ears Ether. This is much more neutral warm and controlled overall with a bigger staging. It makes the Airoso treble sound obviously splashier than it should be. It is objectively the best IEM in the bunch here, so that shouldn't come as any surprise. Kiwi Ears KE4. This has less shimmer in the treble, deeper, more textured bass, and has the warmest, smoothest sound of the entire bunch, although the upper treble is a touch thin and tizzy in timbre, while remaining soft in general. Compared to the whole bunch, the Airoso is what appears to be a slightly V-shaped signature with emphasis on the pinna gain and low and mid treble. The Airoso was also above average in ergonomics and ease to put on. All things considered, the Airoso gets a soft recommendation. Within the price range, it does some things better and some things worse than the competition. If you're having trouble finding good ergonomics with some more vertically shaped IEMs like the EA500LM, these more horizontal shaped shells might be an improvement. If you're averse to full metal shells, then the plastic might be more comfortable, especially in cold weather. It may sound like I'm struggling to find good reasons to recommend this, but the reality is that it doesn't really do much wrong and mostly justifies its price considering the effort that's gone into the sound quality and tuning. To sum things up, the accessories are below average, but the ergonomics and tuning can make up for most of it. It doesn't stand out of the crowd, but it doesn't get eclipsed by its direct peers either. I think for anyone who actually enjoys a little bit of pinna gain, these might be a very strong option if you want just a touch of V-shape to your sound. That's it for now. Take it easy, and I'll see you in the next one.